SEC's best in 2022. Examining the roster. With talented and experienced players like Liam Draxl, Gabriel Diallo, and Milan Hurrian returning to Lexington this spring, the Kentucky Wildcats should be able to compete with just about any opponent in the country. That said, the team will turn to the addition of a couple of key transfers as well as the development from returning members of the roster as they look to join the ranks of the elite in college tennis. Perhaps no player in the country experienced more success last season than Liam Draxl. The Canadian finished 21-2 in dual matches, with each of his victories coming at the number one singles position. Of course, the development of Diallo and Hurrian proved just as crucial last season, as the duo went a combined 30-11 at the 2 and 3 singles positions. Joshua Lapadat and Yasha Zemmel are two sophomores that gained invaluable experience last season and will be relied upon this year to produce results in the lower half of the lineup. Additionally, transfer Francois Musatelli will look to contribute immediately in both singles and doubles after having a highly successful career at both Old Dominion and Grand Canyon University. The team also brings in J.J. Mercer from Ohio State, providing a much-needed boost to the Wildcats' doubles lineup. Overall, it seems like Kentucky has found the perfect blend of talent, experience, and depth to raise their level of success in 2021. Possible lineups. As far as singles goes, we expect things to remain fairly constant for Kentucky at the top. Draxl will maintain his spot at the number one position, while Diallo and Hurrian will excel at spots 2 and 3. Barring injuries, we don't see this top three changing very much throughout the season, and the amount of talent and experience that Kentucky possesses in their top three will allow them to compete with any lineup throughout the country. The lower portion of the lineup, however, could see much mixing and matching throughout the course of the year. We expect Lapadat, Musatelli, Zemmel, LeBlanc, and Mercer to each receive playing time throughout the course of the year. This will afford Coach Kaufman plenty of time to evaluate his guys and decide which players give the Wildcats the best chance to win in the postseason. What's achievable? The Wildcats will be going all in 2022 and doing whatever they can to compete for the SEC title. The guys in the locker room should not settle for less. However, we believe there may be one too many obstacles to prevent Kentucky from reaching that goal. We would group Kentucky ahead of South Carolina and Georgia, but just behind Florida and Tennessee in the race for the 2022 conference title. Looking at more of a national scale, we think Kentucky's season could end one of two ways. With all of the parity in college tennis, it might be more difficult than ever for the Cats to reach the quarterfinals of the NCAA tournament. As of right now, our guess would be that Kentucky falls in the round of 16. That said, is it possible for them to go one step further? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. If the Wildcats get hot, they possess more than enough talent to reach the quarterfinals. Either way, the Kentucky Wildcats should be one of the more interesting and exciting teams to watch in college tennis this spring. Coming in at number 9 in our Cracked Racquets preseason poll is Arizona. It feels like 2021 was a revival for the Wildcats tennis program, and that momentum should carry right through into the 2022 season. The veteran leadership and experience of players like Carlos Hassi, Jonas Sieverts, Filip Malbasic, and Gustav Stram make up a nucleus that head coach Clancy Shields can fully trust in the big moments. This same Arizona team was so much fun and entertaining to watch last spring, and that should continue this season as they attempt to navigate a more wide-open Pac-12 conference than what's been seen in the past. While Wildcat fans will certainly miss Alejandro Reguant, the returning roster that Arizona brings back, plus the addition of potential star freshman Colton Smith and a hopefully healthy Herman Horial, gives Arizona all of the ingredients they need to once again surpass expectations and make a serious run in the postseason. Examining the roster. Carlos Hassi, Filip Malbasic, and Jonas Sieverts help make up a senior class that returns much match experience in 2022. Hassi racked up a team-high 15 doubles victories last season, and the local player from Surprise, Arizona will be counted on to be a rock in the lower portion of the Wildcats lineup this season. Sieverts entered college tennis as one of the highest-rated recruits in Arizona program history. The Solna, Sweden native has not disappointed, as he was the only Wildcat to finish last season ranked in both singles and doubles and was named second team All-Pac-12 as a result. Gustav Stram, Herman Horial, and Jet Middleton make up an excellent sophomore class for the Wildcats, and each player will be counted on to take a step forward in 2022. Stram was easily one of the best freshmen in the country last season, and earned a team-high 18 singles wins, which tied for third highest total in program history. He earned first-team All-Pac-12 honors as a result, and became the first Wildcat ever to receive the Pac-12 Rookie of the Year award. The Wildcats' lone incoming freshman will be Colton Smith, a highly touted American recruit out of Washington. Expect Smith to make a name for himself quickly and secure plenty of wins in both singles and doubles this season. Possible lineups. It should be safe to say that Gustav Stram will begin where he left off, at the number one singles position. We see the experience and skill set of Jonas Sieverts fitting in at number 2, while Colton Smith projects very nicely at the number 3 singles position. The lower portion of the lineup, however, could be a little more interesting. A guy like Malbasic can excel at the number 4 spot, while Horial, Hassi, and even Legayev should get opportunities at 5 and 6. More than likely is that we'll see different lineups from the Wildcats throughout the season as head coach Clancy Shields explores his options. What's achievable? For the longest time, Arizona tennis was a bit of an afterthought in the Pac-12. It's easy to look at programs like USC, UCLA, and Stanford and simply move past the Wildcats. However, in 2022, that is no longer an option with Arizona. Welcome to Hey, Great Shot. This is the Great Shot Podcast, a Cracked Racquets and Tennis Channel Podcast Network production. My name is Alex Gruskin. On today's show, we have our third edition of the deciding point, our weekly recap of the latest action happening across the college tennis world. Of course, national indoors looming for both the Division I men and women. Perhaps some of you can see in the background, I am recording today's show live from the Nielsen Tennis Center in Madison, Wisconsin, getting ready for the Division I Women's National Indoor Championships, which begin tomorrow. Of course, you can follow all of the action on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel. Myself, of course, Mike Cation, super producer Daniel Westoff, going to be on the call over the next 4 days as we watch 16 of the top women's college tennis teams in the country compete for the right to be named the ITA National Indoor Champion. Of course, before we celebrate Division I women's college tennis this weekend, though, we got to recap the past week in men's Division I action. Quite the week of college tennis results. Of course, all of us well aware already what went down in Columbus. Ohio State pretty assertively defining themselves as the number one team in the country here. If you beat Tennessee 4-0 and then follow that up with a win over Virginia 4-0, I don't care if it's on the road, I don't care if it's a neutral site, I don't care if it's at home, you're going to get the college tennis world's attention. Certainly the Buckeyes have our attention. We'll talk about them at length here on today's show, but they weren't the only standouts. We want to talk in general, who were our most impressive teams of the week? What were the results that stood out to us most? That's where we're going to start our show. Of course, after that, we got to get into some of the off-court things. We know latest edition of the ITA coaches poll, latest edition of the singles and doubles rankings. We'll talk about that. We'll unveil our latest Crack Rackets top 10 poll as well. And then last, but certainly not least, we'll get to the week ahead of matches. Yes, we're all going to be focused on the women's action happening this weekend, but certainly there's some fascinating and fantastic Division I men's action happening as well. And joining me on today's podcast to do all of that, joining me to tolerate my monologues as they always do, are the two other members of our Cracked Racquets College Tennis Holy Trinity. Let's start where we always start. Of course, you know one of our members as your favorite writer on our website, crackrackets.com, the former four-star recruit, better half of the Stachowiak brother duo. It's our friend Matthew Crack Stachowiak. Matty, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the show. Another week in the books. It was an exciting one, wasn't it?
It was, man. I'm glad to be back on here with you guys. We had a bunch of good matches. I was able to make it out to the NC State Georgia match. I'm sure we'll cover that here in a little bit. So, yeah, we're in the full swing of things now and excited for some more good matches this weekend.
No, the action only going to heat up from here. I'm curious. I want to ask your reaction, unbiased. Daniel Westoff, Chris Halioris on the ones and twos for Ohio State, Tennessee. Matty, you're going to keep it real as you always do. How was the Alex Gruskin performance from two of our four members here on today's show?
It was good, man. I have to say it was really good. You know, you gotta step it up, Gruskin. Okay. I mean, look, Chris, Westoff, they know what they're doing, man. You got some big shoes to fill there.
I was hoping
you didn't like there's the break on three. There's the break on three.
I was going to pre-record tonight's intro and just go Maddie, and just like every so often, you know, Westoff just throws in a Maddie or just like a Christopher. You know, I would say those are the noises I make most frequently here on our shows. But of course, speaking of a man who makes nothing but noises throughout the course of his lifetime, the third member of our College Tennis Holy Trinity who is joining us on the show today, of course, he goes by many monikers: the Snitch, the Professor, forefather of the college tennis ranks formula predictions, never far from the list of UTR, one of the many dames to root for the Liberty Flames. I know him best as a post-prime, washed-up Greg Maddux. It's our friend Chris Halioris. Chris, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the show. It is weird for me to be here in Madison without you. Of course, the last time I was in this Nielsen Tennis Center, 2020 men's national indoors. It was the last pre-COVID thing pretty much any of us did as tennis fans in the tennis world. I'm back here. I don't see your smiling face beside me. It feels weird for me. I'm sure you're sitting pretty right now at home, though.
Yeah, I mean, it smells much better here. But no, yeah, I definitely. I would love to be up there with you. But yeah, it'll be listening to you from home this weekend. That'll be the plan.
I think that's where you're best, at home listening to me. That's where you've always thrived, Chris, as you know. But no, of course, I miss having both of you here as well. Nevertheless, excited to be here to call all of the action. Of course, always excited as well to talk about the support we get from our friends at SwingVision, the power behind this show, the reason we're able to do it week in, week out. And folks, I'm just telling you, SwingVision heading in all the right directions we want as tennis fans. We're going to be able to automate all of our line calling moving forward. We're going to be able to do all these exceptional and incredible things. And that's a huge testament to the work being done by our friends at SwingVision, the technology they are developing. It's the future, folks. You can learn more about SwingVision, of course, by clicking on the link here in our podcast episode description. With all of that said, gentlemen, let's get into it. What a week of Division I men's college tennis. Now, normally when we start with our teams of the week, we start at number 3. We build our way up to number 1. That said, we felt it would be disrespectful and disingenuous to all of you listeners, to all of you fans, to start with anything but our number 1 most impressive team of the weekend. And the story right now in men's college tennis, it has to be the Ohio State Buckeyes. And you look for these Buckeyes at teams we were certainly high on entering the season. And we knew right away with the schedule they were playing, even outside of traveling to Carolina for the national kickoff, the kickoff weekend, they had Illinois on the road right away to start the season. Well, they beat a downtrodden Illinois team 4-0, an Illinois team that didn't have all of its pieces in the lineup. As such, was hard to read anything from that. Then this Buckeye team goes to North Carolina. And sure, Carolina been one of the best schools, top 5 program over the past 5 years, maybe over the past 8 years throughout the Schneider Blumberg era of Carolina tennis. That said, no Blumberg this year, no Hijikata. You felt like, again, yes, it was a great win for Ohio State 4-0 over the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill. That said, did we really learn everything about the Buckeyes yet? It still felt like, no, maybe not quite yet. Then we get to this weekend. Yes, Tennessee doesn't have Blaise Bicknell. That doesn't matter. They've already beaten TCU. They've already beaten Wake Forest. They were your number 1 team in the country coming into this matchup against the Buckeyes. Buckeyes beat them 4-0. Take doubles, straight set victories in their 3 singles wins. Easy as pie. Or easy as a slice of pie. I never understood that. But, easy pie, that analogy, it was that easy for the Buckeyes. Easy as Coach Tucker slipping into his pair of sweatpants before any match. That's how easy it was. Of course, you think to yourself, okay, that would have been a good weekend enough as is. Then the Cavaliers come to town. The same University of Virginia team that has tormented this Buckeye team throughout the tenure of Coach Ty Tucker, a team that came last year to Columbus, opening weekend of the Ty Tucker Center. Virginia knocks off the Buckeyes to reach the Final 8 at the National Indoors. Now, again, I apologize for the monologues here, folks, but I just wanted to set the scene for all of you listeners and to say that you look for this Buckeye team now. Not only do they get a 4-0 win over Tennessee, not only do they get a 4-0 win over Virginia, but fellas, and I'm going to start with you, Matt, this team now 7-0. They've dropped 1 point on the season in their first 7 matches. It was a Cannon Kingsley loss to Xavier. Now, that same Cannon Kingsley beats Monday this weekend, beats Rodesh this weekend. Maddie, Ohio State's your unequivocal number 1. And let me tell you, they're the favorites entering the national indoors as well.
I agree. There's no way you can say anything other than that. I mean, they're just so good. And guys, we figured that this might happen, right? We talked preseason about how good their doubles was going to be. When you go into singles up 1-0 every time, I mean, that takes a lot of pressure off, and they're good enough to find 3 singles matches. But yeah, no, up and down the lineup, I mean, everybody's contributing. And Cannon Kingsley, yeah, so what? He loses a match that doesn't really matter. When it's prime time, the guy's going to show up. That's just what he does. I don't have any doubts about that. So, statement performances by the Buckeyes, but I do want to revisit. It was funny, right? Last week, I believe Scotty asked us a question and said, is Ohio State more likely to go 0-2 or 1-1 this week? Remember that, Chris? And we both kind of said, you know what? I think they're probably going to go 2-0 more than likely. And sure enough, I mean, 4-0, like you said, Gruskin, easy as a slice of pie or whatever. I'm not totally shocked. I mean, these matches were in Columbus. The Buckeyes are so tough to beat there at home, even though Virginia did it last year, but not the same case this year. Right now, for me, Ohio State is clearly the number 1 team in the country. No question.
Chris, you've eaten a lot of pie in your day. Was it that easy for the Buckeyes this weekend?
I mean, As an expert, I can say it was that easy.
Look at the scores.
Slid down like a warm piece of apple pie with a nice scoop of vanilla on top.
Yeah, I mean, those were just, I mean, both matches out of the gate quick and run away. I mean, it was never in doubt. It wasn't, you see your shares of 4-0, 4-1 matches where every other court looks like it's going 3 or you're losing and it's going to be super tight. That just wasn't the case. They didn't look like they were in danger ever. In both days when they won, they had another match, either on match point or within 2 matches of match point. It was a blitzkrieg right from the get-go. So
I want to push back their excellent use of the term blitzkrieg, Chris. That's why we keep you on, Professor. But I want to push back a little bit there. Because I do want to say against Virginia, that was an old-fashioned butt kicking. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kingsley was on top from the get-go. And, all these guys, you look at just the score lines, Vogtsel 3-3, not even a 5-all bonus time in the set. No tiebreaker played there. And, for Gianni Ross, or for JJ Tracy, up 7-5, 5-0 as well. And just, again, their 3 wins against Virginia, 3-3, 3-2, 3-2. That's a butt kicking. However, you look at their matchup against Tennessee, Chris, and I actually think this is what makes me most frightened to play the Buckeyes here, Maddie. There was a moment where, as this Tennessee team is so fond and able to do, where they made their push. And you look at those first sets pretty simultaneously. It was 5-all between Vogtsel and Walton, 5-all between Cannon and Monday, 5-all between Tracy Diaz, 5-all Cash Hud, 5-all Boulay Mitsui. Maddie, Ohio State ends up with 4 out of those 5 first sets that get to 5-all. And, I talked to Cannon Kingsley. You're going to get to hear that conversation momentarily here on our show. But you talk about this, what they added to the lineup, this team, in Vogtsel and in Van Emberg. There's just an energy and a poise, it feels like, to both of those players that has trickled through the rest of the lineup. And, of course, it's trickled through the rest of the lineup that are all returners as well. So it's just like, and again, it's indoors. I want to stress this. We're still indoors, but being indoors, Maddie, this team has every ingredient.
Yeah, of course they do. I mean, doubles, singles, number 1, 2, 3. I mean, you go throughout the lineup and
literally, by the way, 1 and 2 doubles are ranked 1 and 2 in the country. 1 and 2,
right?
Like, come on now.
Exactly. It's as good as it gets. And those guys that you mentioned in Vogtsel and Van Emberg, these are experienced players, right? I mean, they're older. They've been around for multiple years. They both came from the Big 12, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So they played in big matches, right? Before. This is nothing new to them. They were outstanding pickups. We knew this in the offseason when those guys made that call to transfer. We said, oh, wow, Ohio State may lose a John McNally and a Kyle Seelig, but when you can bring in Mate Vogtsel and Jake Van Emberg, yeah, you don't miss a beat. So it is indoors, like you said, Gruskin. I do, Ohio State is always a little bit different outdoors. They just are. Every single year they're a little bit different. But for right now, I mean, yeah, they're the favorite to win the national team indoors, in my opinion.
Chris, is there anything this Ohio State team can do? They've got Kentucky this weekend, Wake Forest this weekend. Is there anything this Buckeye team can do to lose the number 1 seed come national indoors, or have they wrapped it up?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, if they lose one of these matches this weekend, they'll take the number 1 seed away from them, I would assume.
Even if they lose to Wake, like let's say they lose 4-3 to Wake. A 4-3 loss to Wake is less valuable than a 4-0 win over Tennessee and Virginia? Like, how?
No, it's not so much that. It's the fact that Baylor hasn't lost a match.
Sure. Duh.
And Baylor plays Virginia this week.
That's another good one.
So yeah, but I mean, if Baylor puts up, the win they had over Texas and puts up a win over Virginia and Ohio State takes a loss, there's no question that then you have to make Baylor the number 1 seed. But yeah, I mean, that past that, now when you get down to say your TCU, Tennessee, and we have to throw Florida out because they lost to TCU. There's no way you can put them in front. So, but if we start talking TCU, Tennessee versus a 1-loss Ohio State team, yeah, I still think you put Ohio State in front of them just because of the number of quality wins that they will have had versus the number of quality wins that those other teams have had so far.
Yeah, no, it's fair. Maddie, final question here on this team goes to you again. Trotter at 4, Tracy at 5. They've played around with the order there, and it does seem like they're managing to slip Tracy, who makes quarterfinals at the 2 major fall events, into that number 5 singles position. They've messed around with Voetzl and Cash at the number 2 doubles spot. Every coach. Let me just say, I filed the challenge for you, all the coaches. You don't have to challenge that at the national indoors. Don't worry. Voetzl and Cash will end up being 1. Trotter, Boulay end up at that number 2 spot. I mean, you look at the schedule, Maddie. What more do you want to see from these Buckeyes? Like, what's the next thing you need to see from them?
No, I just think we need to get to indoors, right? I'm fully expecting them to beat Kentucky and Wake. If those are their next 2 matches, I fully expect them to get through those without too much trouble. The next step is just indoors, right? When it's tournament time, they're most likely going to be the number 1 seed. They're going to have a target on their back. I mean, every team there is going to be gunning for Ohio State. That's when I want to see these guys perform. And they proved, like you said, Gruskin, in that Tennessee match, they were a little bit more clutch, right? Those 7-5, those 7-6 type of sets that they won. We need to continue to see that. And I'll be watching them at indoors, but there's nothing that they can really show me prior to that. I mean, so what? They're going to blow out Kentucky 4-0 and beat Wake 4-1 or whatever. I mean, okay, that's fine. I mean, but that's not really going to show me that much. We'll see at indoors.
$20 says this is the first match Liam Drexel wins in straight sets, just because this is when we doubt him most, and this is when he comes in and shines through. But
I wouldn't bank on that.
Yeah, no, but of course, who might Drexel face? He's going to face the guy we had the chance to speak with on today's show. And of course, always a pleasure to get to chat with Project Elite's very own Cannon Kingsley. Of course, Kingsley 4-0 for the Buckeyes this past weekend, a win over Monday at the number 2 singles position against Tennessee, a win over Chris Rodesh at the number 1 singles position against UVA. He and JJ Tracy also partnered at that number 3 doubles position to earn 2 victories on the day. We have a chance to sit down with Cannon Kingsley. Now, as always, you can hear the extended conversation tomorrow on the Cracked Interviews podcast, but we have a snippet for all of you listeners today about how he and the Buckeyes are feeling headed into another difficult weekend, and of course, what they credit the strong start to 2022 to. With that in mind, super producer Daniel Westhoff, roll the clip. Here is my conversation with Ohio State's Cannon Kingsley. On the show here tonight is a returning champion to our Cracked Racquets podcast. Of course, you know him best as a former All-American, number 1 singles player, number 3 doubles player now for the Ohio State men's tennis team, coming off of a 2-0 weekend where his team knocked off number 1 University of Tennessee, knocked off a top 6 team in University of Virginia, as well as our friend Ohio State's Cannon Kingsley. Cannon, welcome back to the show. Congratulations on the victory, my friend. How are things going in Columbus?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's always good to be on here talking to you, and everything's been good in Columbus. We're right back to work after that good weekend, so getting ready for another big one tomorrow against Kentucky. So
yeah, no doubt about that. And I want to ask about both of the matches. I have to start with Virginia, because last year, opening of the Ty Tucker Tennis Center, first weekend in the new building, ITA kickoff weekend, who's come to Columbus, they knock you off. You can't tell me you didn't have that in the back of your mind as today's match was played out, right? That had to have felt like a good victory for the Buckeyes.
Yeah. No, I was definitely thinking about that. I was remembering last year, UVA pretty much brought back the same squad minus Carl Soderlund, and we pretty much, we got a couple new guys, but a few of the guys remembered last year, and I think just the way we did it on Sunday and how we beat them, I think shows how much a lot of the guys on the team have improved and also gotten more comfortable in our new building. Obviously, last year that was our first match in the new building, and the courts are a little bit slower than our old indoor was so fast, and we had such an advantage in there. In addition to that, we were able to have our full crowd. We had about 500 people out in the match, and the Buckeye crowd, when they come out, and we got over 400, 500 people, it's tough to play us, and I think that definitely showed. But yeah, no, it was definitely a good revenge match, and I think as a team, we've just been clicking, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. So a couple of things that I have to follow up on. A, you talk about that energy in the building. you could hear every one of those 400 to 500 people through the live stream. It was, an electric atmosphere. No other word about that. You look at the doubles point for you guys, throughout the course of the weekend. And obviously, Votzel and Cash are number 1 in the country. Trotter Boulay, number 2 in the country. But you look for you and JJ, who get wins at the number 3 doubles position, not only against Tennessee, but against Virginia as well. How helpful was that energy? And what do you credit, getting off to that fast start in doubles in both matches?
Yeah, no, I mean, having 2 teams like Trotter and Boulay and Cash and Vosel kind of takes some pressure off of me and JJ, to be honest. And I feel like that's a big part of why we're winning so much, is because, us winning is like gravy on top of it, because, we're guaranteed, almost a guarantee, to have Cash and Vosel and Boulay and Trotter getting a couple wins too. So, I mean, we've been playing pretty free. I mean, me and JJ obviously got experience last year playing together a little bit during the season. And this year we've been kind of full time together. So, it's been good. We've been clicking, and hopefully we keep it going. This weekend.
How good are Mate and Robbie? Just out of curiosity, because they haven't lost yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell how good they actually are just because they haven't lost. So, yeah. I mean, they're the best team in the country, in my opinion. I think a lot of people would agree with me, but I mean, they're a lock. I mean, playing them in practice is nearly impossible to win a practice set. So, no, they're a very good team, and I think just in general in doubles, I think we've gotten a lot better this year, and taking that momentum from the fall, the success they had in the fall, and bringing it right into the spring. So it's been good.
No doubt about that. And you talk about your team capitalizing on momentum. I want to go back to, the ends of the first sets in both the Tennessee match and the Virginia match. And you look at that Tennessee match, first set's coming down to the wire. Votzel, Walton, 5-all, yourself, Monday, 5-all, Tracy, Diaz, 5-all, Cash, Hud, 5-all, Boulay, Mansui, 5-all. You guys take 4 of those 5 first sets. And, again, watching your team play last season, you still made an NCAA round of 16. Obviously, for most teams, that would be the standard you try to hit. That would be considered a successful season. It does feel like, though, for your team, you guys seem to have a bit of an edge to start the year. And it feels like in those tight, clutch moments there down the first stretch, you guys were the closer team. You guys had that much more energy down the fight. Now, of course, certainly helps to be at home. But are you guys playing with an edge to start the season? Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. I think mentally, we've been prepared pretty well for this year. I think in practice, we're put in tough situations all the time. A lot of pressure on us in practice pretty much every day to, do things the right way and to compete well. And I think that it's kind of gone straight into the matches. And obviously being at home helps with the energy aspect of it. But I think we also did a good job at UNC with the energy. And now, even though we're an opposing crowd, and I think winning some close sets there too was big. And I mean, at least for me personally, I've saved multiple set points and a few different tiebreakers in the last 3-4 matches. So I think definitely I've gotten better in those breakers and those tight sets and kind of staying calm. And I definitely am feeling a little more confident, when the match gets close, and relying on my teammates as well to be able to do the same thing. So. Yeah,
no, it feels like across the board, again, all of the guys coming through thus far. I want to talk to you about the 2 newcomers who are obviously both experienced players in college tennis. To have Mate and Jake in the top half of your lineup, not only what that does to, have JJ Tracy at 5 singles, Coach Tucker pulling a fast one on all of us once again, but to have Jake, to have Mate, and, I was at the Illinois match. There was a fight that Jake was playing with at number 3 against a guy in Alex Brown who, Buckeye's very familiar with, where that fight's going to come. And it just felt like Jake brought in energy and Mate brings a poise that I don't want to say were lacking last season, but they are additional, veteran components that I feel like takes this team over the hump. Again, is that fair?
Yep, that's 100% accurate. I think Jake definitely brings a energy aspect. I think Mate does the same thing. Those guys have played college tennis for I don't know how many years. I mean, Jake's in his 5th year, Mate's in probably his 4th year, I think. And no, those guys definitely bring a little bit of a level of experience. I mean, obviously they were playing on 2 teams that were good teams, but they weren't, competing for national championships. So I think they kind of have this kind of mindset, this is the year, this is the time to win a championship, win a couple rings. And I think that they're kind of playing with a little bit of fire in their hearts for sure. To try and get that.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And again, you look for you personally, because I've avoided this question, but I got to ask it. 6-5 over Monday, and what was it, 3-2 or 3-3 over Road Dash, and you're up a set in 5-1 against Cernak, I believe, when you're going to North Carolina that week before. You play the best ball of your career right now, Cannon? Certainly, you look at the results, it feels like you might just be.
I think last weekend was definitely it was probably the best weekend of top 2 weekends I've had in college tennis. Getting to top 13 wins, I think, was huge. I mean, but I feel like at the same time, 2 weeks before that, I think I had the worst week of college tennis in my career, and I had probably the worst loss, that I've had maybe in my tennis career. And I think having that loss is a big factor into why I had such a successful weekend and why I played well at UNC as well. And I think, I could have taken 2 routes after losing that match against Xavier. And I chose, obviously to, not, sulk and get upset over it and downward spiral. But I definitely turned myself around a little bit and changed a few things. And I think it's been working out for me pretty well.
No, I would agree with you. How hard have you been fighting Coach Tucker to play that number 3 double spot?
It's a battle. I mean, we got guys competing for the double spot like Trey. Every practice, every point matters when we're practicing. He's looking at everything. How we're volleying, how we're returning. Our attitudes. Everything matters in practice. So, I mean, we got about four guys that are all competing for 2 spots in the 3 doubles. So. I wouldn't be surprised if, he takes me out here and there, puts someone else in, moves me around, moves other people down to 3. That's, Crow and Ty's job to move around the lineup. But, I think as long as I keep doing my job, I'll stay in there, I think. But
anything fewer than 10 doubles teams, you feel disappointed at the end of the season from Coach Tucker. And so, with that in mind, you talk about the experimentation. Obviously, you guys got to find your lineup right away, as you've already played matches like Tennessee, like Virginia. This weekend, you've got Kentucky at home on Friday. You've got Wake Forest at home on Sunday. How are the boys feeling? How have you guys refocused as you look towards this weekend?
Yeah, no, I mean, we kind of, we celebrated, a little bit like for a day, and after we beat Tennessee and Virginia, and then right after that, we kind of refocused on Kentucky, and we've been, real focused on that. Also Wake Forest, obviously. And, two more top 10 teams. I think Kentucky's really a top 5 team at this point. I think they're a little underrated, but Wake Forest as well is obviously 6th in the country. So, I mean, they got depth in their lineups, good guys at the top. So, I mean, we're going to have our work cut out for us, but we're playing at home. We got confidence, we got momentum. So, I think we can beat anyone in the country. So I'm not too worried, but, obviously we gotta be ready.
I love it. Does Coach Tucker show you his personal top 10 rankings? Because I've asked him for years.
He changes it pretty much every time we play. So whatever team we're playing next, this is the best team in the country. He changed every single week. It's a new team. So he hasn't put us up there at the top yet, but on his personal.
I talked to him. I go, I ran the numbers, Alex. Michigan average ranked 5.5 in the Ty Tucker poll. I'm like 5.5. I'm like, there's a half ranking in the Coach Tucker poll. He's like, oh no, that we hold no expense here. So no, of course. But again, as you look for your team this weekend, national indoors coming up, what's going to take for the Buckeyes to continue to play their best tennis here in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're getting those doubles points, starting off strong, holding serve. I mean, when we have the doubles point, I don't see how we can't find 3 points in the singles. I think for me personally, I just got to keep, holding strong and, winning those close sets like I've been doing the last few matches. And I think down the lineup, we have depth and we have guys that are competing well and we're pretty connected as a team. So, I mean, as long as we just, keep doing what we've been doing, I don't see any reason why we can't win the national indoors and, be number 1 in the country at the end of the year.
Absolutely. Well, again, it's been so fun to watch you guys start to the season. And obviously you have so much to do with that start, whether it be the surprising what's happened at Xavier to Cannon Kingsley match all the way through now. A fantastic weekend. Again, you're 4-0 against 2 top 6 teams in the country. Obviously, Cannon, always appreciate the chance to speak with you and wishing you and the Buckeyes success throughout the course of the next few weeks.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Well, a huge thank you to Cannon Kingsley again for taking the time to chat with us here at Cracked Racquets. I have to say that's the first time I felt more handsome than the guest we've had in an interview, and I appreciate Cannon for keeping that camera work close to the screen. He wanted to make me look as good as possible, but of course, he's made the Buckeyes look as good as possible thus far through the season. Buckeyes 7-0 to this point of the year. Another big weekend against Kentucky and Wake Forest coming up. Huge thank you to Cannon for taking some time before those matches to chat with us. Couple of final thoughts on this Ohio State matchup and everything that happened this weekend in Columbus before we move on, because there are a lot of other results for us to move on to. Let's talk about the hooking stuff from the get-go. And if you want to hear more from Cannon Kingsley, you can on our Cracked Interviews podcast. The reason I bring that up is in our long-form conversation, I asked him, and I wanted always leave a juicy nugget outside of the clip you show, right? Make people click on it moving further. I asked him, I said, you guys must have seen the clips going around. You guys must be aware of those sorts of things. What's your reaction to it? Does your team talk about it? Do you address it? Do you block it out? And he says, look, Coach Tucker makes it very clear. We don't do that at Ohio State. We're not blasting social media. We're not calling out these sorts of instances. He's like, believe me, we could check the tape. Like, we'll find a bad call in every match that we've played. And I think that's where we have to start this conversation. Did the calls with Tracy look great? Absolutely not. Now, do I think there is any validity to checking a camera shot of a live stream secondhand, all of these different things? No, like, come on now. Every call looks close on a live stream. I think it's ridiculous to judge off of a stream. That said, Maddie, I'll start with you. Your reaction to all the hoopla that we had, another close call series generates here in college tennis.
Yeah, look, Gruskin, I'm kind of tired of it. To be honest with you, like at this point, every year we're seeing people that are clipping line calls and everything. And look, if I'm not there in person, who am I to judge, right? Like if I'm there, if I'm watching the match, if I'm courtside, yeah, I can see it and I know what's going on. But look, bad calls are made. We know this. It's college tennis. Guys are going to hook people. And then other guys just make calls that they may truly feel is the right call, and it's not. Their vision's poor or whatever it is. Some people just make mistakes. It's a combination of everything. But when I see something like that, a clip, yeah, obviously it looks like, oh man, what a terrible call. And those are made. It's college tennis. It's part of it. I wish we could get it cleaned up. I wish there was a way where we could have Shot Spot or Hawkeye on every single court and it calls the lines. We have the electronic line calling and players don't have to make their own calls. I'd be good with that. I really would, but that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. We get what we get. And, hopefully some of these chair umpires can just pay a little bit more attention. That I think is a problem. You've got a referee on the court. They don't do their job most of the time. All you have is one job. Watch the match. They don't even do that. So
two follow-ups off of that. A, couldn't agree with that sentiment more. So sick of it. Do you want to know why there's not broadcasting for some of these matches? Coaches don't want to deal with that. Every play site camera we enjoy is just opportunity to pull a clip like that. And you want to know the fastest way to losing broadcasted college tennis matches is keep posting clips like that. And I just think long-term, because there is the idea of call it out, put a spotlight on it. Don't allow these players to do that. Put some more pressure on them. But to your point, it happens every match. And, having been a chair umpire and sitting in that throne, good luck. Far sideline, 115 mile per hour call. Like, your guess is as good as the player's guess when you're in that position. So for me, the solution is especially at the end of a match, a line judge's day is not done in the office until every match is complete. Because if we're at a 3-all scenario and there's one person in the chair and we have 5 former chair umpires ready to officiate the match, 4 on the sidelines. Let's go. Let's have chair umpires the rest of the way. Let's never let a call dictate a result. But Chris, other than that, I really don't know what else there is for us to do. Now, you say there's no solution. 2 words: SwingVision. Give them a year. Give them 2 years. They'll be there. But short of technology, Chris, short of having line judges move over, that's really all I have to say on it. I am sick of the hoopla. I agree.
Yeah, I'm sick of it too. But I do think, and you hinted at it, the other solution is that the chairs have to be better at doing their job. So first of all, right there, because I've been through it, there is zero, there's no physical testing other than getting an eye exam to say you're capable, right? That's probably not the best. Maybe there should actually be a little test, a field test, if you will. But then sometimes maybe those people are capable of passing a field test and they're just not paying the best of attention during the match. Who knows? The problem is they have to be on the officials more. And I think for the sake of it, just like they put out they put out memos all the time about things to look for. I think they need to go through a phase where they let the officials get a little overzealous to the point where you don't have to be 100% deadlock sure the ball was out to overrule. If you're 98% sure that ball was not good, because the player by definition is supposed to give the benefit of the doubt to the opponent. Unless you are positive the ball's out, you're not supposed to call it. So you should be playing anything close. Let the officials call them out early, establish the tone that, no, we're not going to put up with this. We're not going to let this match go to the point where you guys are hooking each other. I'm going to overrule early and get it out of the way. And that's going to force you guys to play the close balls. Then we're not even going to have a problem. I think that's the only other thing until we have a technology solution that you can do is make the early calls, let the players know that you're not going to put up with the calls that are even marginally close. You play it if it's questionable and move on.
And by the way, I don't mean to demonize because, I'm pretty sure it was our friend Ethan, who I've had the chance to speak with many a times, who posted a clip about JJ Tracy. Here's what I have to say. I really dislike when people like Brad Gilbert and Tracy Austin hop on the bandwagon and, the random people of the world who have never said sorry, I almost swore Westoff, who have never said an effing word about college tennis. And now they think they can come in on their moral high ground and say, get this out of the game, legislate this out of the game. That guy, if it was my team, he'd be suspended for the next 4 weeks. It's like, I'm sorry, Westoff, it's going to slip out. Bullshit. That's what I have to say to that. That's absolute BS. Like, under no circumstances is that going to be the case if you're coaching that team and you see that happen. Because again, is it an issue in college tennis? Absolutely. I agree with both of you guys. I'm sick of the hoopla. I'm sick of the freeloading people who use it as an opportunity to dunk on a 19, 20-year-old kid who they have no idea the context of. I understand why fans post it. You're going to feel angry in the moment. But again, give us one more year of SwingVision. Just trust our friends at SwingVision, folks. Technology, as always, going to be the key out of this. With all that said, we're rapid fire through because we have spent far too much time on Columbus. Any different feelings about Tennessee over Virginia for you guys coming out of this loss? It was a bad loss, but I think it's had more to do about Ohio State than anything else, Maddie.
I agree. For Tennessee, they played some of those matches pretty tough. And again, without Blaise Bicknell, who I'm not really expecting to see anytime soon, if at all this year, he makes a difference in that match. I think if he's in that lineup, I think Tennessee can win a couple of those courts. So no, I don't really feel any different about them or UVA. Again, UVA just got smacked, but indoors in Columbus, that happens to a lot of teams. Let's see what UVA does against Baylor this weekend. I think that'll tell us a little bit more.
That's a really good point. Chris?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's all about Ohio State. They were just that good. The thing that I texted you guys about it over the weekend, I thought was, wow, we thought Harvard went to Virginia, got smoked, thought, oh, they're not that great. Then they go out and they beat Pepperdine. We're like, oh, wow, Harvard's actually pretty good. UVA, that must speak to how good they are. And then we see this, and we're like, wow, Ohio State must be, they're just right now a level above everybody else. So, but as we say every year, let's get through the indoor season and get outdoors too. But absolutely, they're going to be the favorite for indoors.
1,000%. I would say this. I still think if you're Tennessee, you say, all right, we had 5 really bad minutes at the end of the first set, like 5 really bad minutes for our team where 4 out of 5 sets don't break our way. But we're right there with this Columbus team. And let's play them without the 400, 500 screaming Buckeyes behind us. And when we head out to Seattle, I actually think if you're Tennessee, you can talk yourself into saying, yeah, we lost 4-0. It was not a bad 4-0. Virginia's was a bad 4-0. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's why it's going to be fascinating to see the Hoos take on Baylor before the National Indoor Championships this weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's move on to our other most impressive teams. Of course, we're 45 minutes in. We've talked about 3 teams thus far. Boy, did I miss you both here. Welcome to the deciding point, folks. We are back and in mid-season form. Let's move to the number 2 team on our list, a team that was in our preseason top 10, a team that, quite frankly, we have not discussed with much depth thus far, not only this season, but I think throughout the course of last season as well, because we just didn't get to see much of them. And I, of course, am referring to the number 2 team on our list, the Stanford Cardinal, who unequivocally winners of the weekend as they take on their two biggest Pac-12 rivals, USC, UCLA. They give them the business. 4-1 win over USC, 6-1 win over UCLA. I think even more impressive than the wins was just the way that they did it in both matches. And you look for them against USC, they drop the doubles point. I mean, they go on a blitz against USC in singles, win through the 3-6 singles matches in straight sets. You want to show you're a good team, flash that depth, earn 3-6 wingles, that heart of the lineup in straight sets. Of course, you look for the team the next day, you know, against UCLA, they bounce back, end up taking the doubles point as they should against UCLA, you know, earn wins at 1-3 spots in straight sets, get wins at 5 and 6 as well. I was wrong. I'm taking the L on this one, guys. And I want to start with you here, Maddie. This Stanford team is that good because you have to consider they're doing all of it without Tristan Boyer.
That's right. Hey, we tried to tell you, Gruskin. You don't have any excuses.
I was wrong. I'm taking the L.
Thank you. Okay, we tried to tell you. This finally, guys, is what I've wanted to see out of this Stanford team. This past weekend, these are the results that I've been expecting. I mean, not so much the UCLA match. I don't think UCLA is really all that good of a team.
Can I say this? Is my UCLA rant from last week somewhat validated in your mind, Maddie? Somewhat?
No, I wouldn't say that. Okay. I just don't. I'm not going to give you that, Gruskin, but okay. I just don't think UCLA is anywhere close to these top 10, top 15 type teams that are all in that mix. UCLA is nowhere near there. Now, are they top 25? Okay, yeah, maybe we have a conversation about that. But it's the USC match, which you referred to, Gruskin. I mean, you drop the dubs point and then you win 3, 4, 5, and 6 that easily. I mean, come on, against USC, who's probably the biggest competition, you know, maybe throw Arizona in there in the conference. I'm telling you, this is what I've been looking for out of Stanford. I am so excited to see them play at indoors against all of these top teams. They have as good a depth as anybody. I mean, you said, they're rolling. No Tristan Boyer yet. This team is dangerous, like I thought they would be. I'm glad that we're finally getting to see some of these results.
Yeah, no, look, I know a clean-shaven, handsome broadcaster who in the offseason predicted Axel Geller would play the number 3 singles position. Axel Geller has played number 3 singles for this team, and that's without Tristan Boyer in the lineup, and they haven't missed a beat. 6-0 overall, wins over Pepperdine, you know, win over UCF with, not the greatest, but it was at UCF. So certainly, you know, that's a win you take early for a team that still is relatively inexperienced, just given everything that happened last season. Of course, now they beat SC at home. They beat UCLA at home. I mean, these are your Pac-12 favorites as of right now, right, Chris? And they've certainly earned it. It wouldn't shock me at all to see them a top 5 seed at the national indoors.
Absolutely. They're right there in that mix, right? I mean, they've looked absolutely tremendous based off the last coaches poll. You know, I think we all probably had them above Virginia, but it's gonna be tough to get by the top 5. The top 5 are in pretty decent shape there, unless, like I said, and you know, if Virginia manages to knock Baylor off, let's say, then maybe they could say Baylor would slip down below Stanford. I don't know, but other than that, I think 6 is probably a very realistic seedings for them at indoors.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, look, they've got Cal this weekend as well. Cal's looked pretty good also. I mean, it's really just who's beating up on UCLA on the West Coast right now. That's the latest story. And this past week, it was Cal and Stanford that were able to do it, and not to just keep beating the horse on the UCLA team because, again, they're extraordinarily young. But it's the fact that, again, to your point, it's the way the Cardinals earn victories across the board. You know, for them, Geller beats Fry in straight sets. That's 2 veterans. You like to see Geller getting the better of Fry, particularly given the pedigree for both of them in their college careers thus far. But, you know, Bassing versus Peter Mock, that's 2 freshmen on the job. Bassing was the better freshman. Bassing came in as one of the highly touted freshmen in the country. Of course, between Chaudhry and, you know, Sridhar, all the options they have at the bottom of the lineup, you're starting to see that manifest itself. And then again, Ferry and Rothsart, top 10 team in the country. You know, you get Axel Geller in any positions that's not number 1 doubles. You feel like it's a strong foundation for your team. Final thought goes to you here, Maddie, because this is a Stanford team you've been pushing for a couple seasons now. As good as they've looked, I still have a lot of questions about them come the indoors. I'm curious if you feel the same way.
Well, because they've played a lot of their matches outdoors. So how many matches have they even played indoors this year?
I don't think any yet.
I don't think any. So that is going to be very interesting. They played 6 matches. They're 6-0 and all 6 have been played outdoors. I think I could be wrong on that. I don't know for sure, but I think you're right, Gruskin. Yeah, that the indoor tennis will be interesting, but look, they're so talented. I don't really care. You think Arthur Ferry's not going to play well indoors? You don't think Rozart and Geller are going to play good? They're going to play good indoors. I'm interested to see how the draw breaks down and who they end up playing. But look, there's not a team in that tournament at the National Indoors that should feel super comfortable about if they draw Stanford. I mean, Stanford can beat anybody. They're that good. And we don't know what's going to happen with Boyer too. I mean, hopefully he comes back soon, because then you're looking in, does Geller move down to 4? Do you stick Boyer in at 4? I mean, what do you do there? I don't know, but it's all positive stuff for the Cardinal either way.
Chris, you're giggling. It looks like you have one final thought.
Yeah, I was just laughing at Maddie's. Do you put Geller down to 4? I think this was this was a little side conversation that we had where you go to Axel and you say, hey, Axel, I need you to take a couple quick beat downs for me just so I can justify sliding you down. Can you do that, please? Okay, thanks.
Are you kidding? Axel would wink and say, no, I'm just not playing my best.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's no way the other coaches are going to let you do that. You're going to have justification for doing so. So yeah, but no, with Boyer in there, man, I mean, that top 4 is as good as any top 4 out there.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a really fun team. They're still untested, one to watch at the National Indoors, if for no other reason than to accumulate data on them. With that said, we're going to let you lead off here, Chris, because obviously all 3 of us have some conversations off mic, and usually John Parsons, not usually, always now John Parsons, the 4th member of our group chat. A team we have talked sneakily more about here to start the season than I expected us to is an ACC team. And yet, Chris, it's a team I want to start with your thoughts on first, because I know, you have followed this NC State team pretty closely over the years, whether it be through the Lexi Galarno stretch, whether it be through, again, Coach Kyle Spencer's been extraordinarily kind to us over the years here at Cracked Racquets. And you look at this NC State team, they brought in the number 1 recruiting class in the country last season. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter how many recruits you bring in, you're never gonna truly replace an Alexis Galarno. What an All-American like that, a rock at the top of your lineup, what he does not only with literal results, but just the support and the confidence his presence at the top offers everyone else on the team. You can never replace that. And yet, you look for this team, Chris, 4-2 overall on the year. This past week, they lose 4-3 at home. Dramatic match against Georgia. They then host UCF. They earn a 4-0 victory over them. Now, this team also 4-2 win over Illinois to start the season, 6-1 over Princeton, 7-0 over Campbell. Their other loss, 4-2 on the kickoff weekend to Ole Miss. But I really like what Coach Spencer has building. And I think given how young this team is, Chris, to play Georgia that tight, and to get the win bounce back right away that next week against UCF. My takeaway from the first 2 weeks, why they're in this category, is I think this team is ready to compete for a top 16 seed this season. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win the ACC. I'm not trying to be ridiculous here. But this team is pretty good already, and that surprised me, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, with what they had for freshmen, we just didn't know. We knew you're losing Lexi, right? I mean, So anytime you lose that, both singles and doubles, you're taking a hit. But I mean, the freshmen they've got in it's fairly rare that you get the freshmen to step in and be that good right away for them. We certainly weren't expecting. When you combine that with the fact that now somebody's got to step up into the 1 spot to take Lexi's position, and you've got a host of guys between Rafa and Katri and Rutsons that are all kind of up there, but they were used to, at least in the Katri Rutsons position, playing more down in that 5-6, 4-5-6 spot. It's a big jump up for them. And man, every one of them has produced. They've just looked really, really good to start the year. Even that 4-2 loss to Ole Miss at Ole Miss, which I've talked about countless times, is such a hard place to play. I mean, I had tweeted out even during that match, look at the score sheet for it. Every other match was going to a tie break every set. I mean, it was ridiculous how close that match was. And yeah, they had, they were right there with, in the Georgia match. I mean, it's these guys, the freshmen are good. And let's not forget, we had talked last week. We said, hey, they've got Barkai sitting on the bench. So if they need it, they've got a very, very talented seventh and maybe even deeper. But the way Silvestri and Schick have been playing right now, they're not going anywhere. They're in the lineup.
Yeah, no, this team can play, Maddie, and obviously it's one right nearby you. Were you at this Georgia match?
I was there. I saw.
Give us the takeaway.
I saw every bit of it, and really NC State probably should have won. I mean, it was so close. Georgia escaped. I mean, they barely got out of Raleigh. I was impressed as well with the Wolfpack. Chris, you kind of brought this up a few minutes ago. I noticed the improvements from some of the returning players, right? The top three guys like Rafa and Katri and Rosens and those guys. I mean, their game has definitely improved over the past couple of seasons. There's no doubt about it. I think Coach Spencer's doing a good job with those guys. Rosens, I mean, he's playing Phil Henning, at the number 2 position. And I mean, the guy is just ripping serves. I mean, hard. I mean, 130 mile an hour serves indoors that he is just blasting. I was impressed. I wasn't expecting it. If he can continue to play at that level, that's a really good sign. And then they're young, they've got these young guys that are playing well. It's an impressive team. I don't know. You say top 16, Gruskin. I think maybe they can push for that, but it's going to be tough. There's so much competition, right? I mean, we've got our top 15, 16 right now that are so good. It's going to be a battle, but yeah, I think I have to admit, NC State, I think, is going to be better this year than I really thought, because you lose Alexi and you automatically think, okay, this team's going to go down. They're too young, relying on too many freshmen, but they're going to be a force in the ACC. I'm very interested to see how they continue this season. And I'm also going to be interested to see how they transition outdoors. I noticed like a lot of these guys like Katri and Rosens and they play indoor tennis. I mean, they go for their shots. That's what they did against Georgia. They go for it. And you'll love to see that. But now if we move outdoors and we have elements, we have sun, we have wind, they're going to have to play a little bit differently. I do want to see that. But overall, I've been impressed. I was there. I saw every match.
Here's the big thing. Yes, Virginia and Wake Forest probably still a step ahead of this NC State team, but anyone else in the conference, North Carolina, Duke, all those other teams, NC State walks into all of those matches thinking we are going to win this match. And how many years in a row have we seen at least 3 ACC teams as top 16 seeds come the NCAA tournament? Certainly third place in the ACC conference is a position you feel good about. And it feels like for a very young team, this NC State group already competing for that number 3 spot and might be the favorite by the time we get to the start of March, get to the start of conference play. Of course, we won't see them at the National Indoors in Seattle last weekend, but I don't know if there's any such thing as a good loss if you ask a coach, but that was a good 4-3 loss to Georgia, then a great bounce back for a win over UCF. That is our third most impressive team of the week. And shout out to the NC State men and women. Whatever they're doing down there, it is working right now in the college tennis, for NC State from a college tennis perspective. With all that said, there are a lot of other good results for us to cycle through. And what we're going to do here, we're going to try and touch on as many of them as we can. We're going to put 15 minutes on the clock here, 15 minutes to try to get through all of them. I'm going to sit back here. I'm going to let you guys do the analyzing unless I just feel like you are, ripping off my Wolverines. Let's be honest here. That's the match I'm most likely to jump in on. But we're going to put 15 minutes on the clock. You're trying to filter through all the results I noticed most pressingly, maybe at the end, if there's time left, or Chris, Maddie, I'll ask you if I left anything out. With that in mind, super producer Daniel Westoff, put 15 minutes on the clock. Let's go through the rest of the past week of results. In college tennis, we start Wake Forest, 4-3 win over UGA. Tell you more about UGA of late, Maddie, or tell you about this Wake Forest team?
Yeah, I think a little more about UGA because I was at the NC State UGA match and I wasn't totally impressed with the Bulldogs. I was expecting more. Then they go up to Winston-Salem and they drop that match to the Deacs. I mean, not a good weekend overall for Georgia. I know they beat NC State, but I'm telling you, they shouldn't have. They really should have probably lost that the way that they were playing. So, you guys know how high I was on Georgia, right? Preseason. I mean, this was a team that I thought, okay, top 10 for sure. But now, yeah, I mean, Trent Bride doesn't look the same to me. I mean, there's certain things with that team that I don't really love. They've got some new guys, Tristan McCormick, who's played well, and Hamish Stewart and these guys, but I don't know. There's some part of that squad that I just feel like something's missing or it's not quite right. It's going to be interesting to see Georgia in the SEC because I mean every match is tough. Yeah, I'm cooling down on Georgia a little bit, guys.
Yeah, fair. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all probably kind of leaning Wake heading into that based on what we'd seen. I will say the one takeaway for me out of that match is the reason I have been reluctant to get too high on Georgia yet is I haven't liked any options I've seen at number 6. Mm-hmm. I actually was really, really impressed with Pena in that match. He looked, I mean, I kept waiting for as good as the level was. I kept waiting for him to go away and thinking, well, that's a match Wake has to count on winning. And it ended up being the match that, they needed. And it didn't go Georgia's way, but I was impressed. He played really well. If that's the level they can get from him, I'm encouraged. I'm with Maddie on and this happened last year with Bride. He just, wins the first set and then 0-1. I don't know what happens. I don't know if he's got nagging injuries. I don't really know what's going on there, but it's almost like it's not the same guy. And he just something happens there. So I'm not sure what the deal is with Trent, but no, I mean, I do think that was a little more telling about Georgia than it was Wake. We've got a pretty good read on Wake at this point, I think.
I agree with you there.
And Chris, one more second here, Gruskin. Pena didn't even play against NC State when I was in Raleigh.
Correct.
He didn't even play. So
they've been playing Paulsell most of the season at 6, and they finally gave Pena a shot, which is why I was encouraged to see that because I hadn't liked what they'd been doing at 6. And I liked, and I haven't seen enough of Pena. His game indoors to me looked really good. He was hitting good winners from behind the baseline with pace, clearly has some power. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him to know how that'll translate, but I like him indoors.
I agree. Trent has to step it up though for Georgia. Trent is the guy. I mean, I don't know what's wrong, but to me, at NC State, he didn't look focused. He didn't look totally into that match. He was in and out, he's looking around and it just seemed like his mind might've been elsewhere. I don't know why, but they need Trent Bride to step up for them for sure if they want to be a top 10 team.
This is going to sound very stupid. You know what they really need is Ethan Quinn to play this season. It's a shame they threw that red shirt on him because it does feel like, man, you throw Quinn into this lineup and just things become that much easier. And so interesting choice there from Coach Hunt, Coach Diaz building for the future, obviously perhaps sacrificing something in the immediate, but I think you guys nailed it there. And we talked a lot about Wake, Schneider and Nava and Body. And we had a Kungu sighting today for the first time. And, again, all these guys, still a lot of faces for us and Wake Forest. Really excited to see them compete at the national indoors because clearly, as always, they're going to play everyone tough. One match we've got, let's see here. I got all the way to Q in my list of A through Q matches we have. So whatever letter Q is in the alphabet, we're going to try and sneak them in here. TCU Ole Miss 4-3 Horned Frogs. Maddie, that's your squad. Give me the takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting match because I didn't really expect Ole Miss to go there and do they fought harder than I thought they would. You got to give credit to the Rebels. I mean, they showed up in Fort Worth there and they put on a pretty good performance. But again, overall, TCU is just the more talented team. So, I mean, that the result went the way that I thought it would. I think got to give some credit here to Ole Miss on that one.
Are we sure San Cullen didn't play for them? I thought I saw him in the lineup, Chris.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, they TCU did what they had to do. They clinched it before that match at number one ended up going to a 10-pointer. And I don't know if any of the others did, but yeah. And then I think they didn't finish, or they retired at 6, but yeah, I mean, I think it was 4-1 at the point of the clinch, but Ole Miss still, I mean, they put up a battle there, and it was a good, even though it was a 10-pointer, good win for Slavic to get over Famba. But yeah, I think TCU did what we expected. And good to see Vive still playing.
I was gonna say at the same time, it still feels like TCU's not healthy, right? Like it feels like either way, even with these wins, they're just not, Chris.
Yeah, well, it's a little concerning when you see, Fernley playing 5 games and retiring. Granted, there's no cameras indoors. We weren't there. It's only 5 courts, so the match goes on late. Did he just, did they agree to play? What very well could have happened is they agreed to play it out. They clinched the match, and Fernley's like, look, I'm already kind of limping along here. There's no sense in me playing it. I'll just retire. And they could have just given, he may not really have been hurt, just retired because the match was already clinched. I don't know. But yeah, it's not the healthiest team in the world. So it's always something to keep an eye on.
I don't know. That's the biggest concern with TCU is just their health. I mean, we know they're talented. Every player listed on their roster is extremely talented. They have to stay healthy. That's really the only question that I have with that team. Other than that, they'll compete with anybody.
Yeah, they call him Tim No Knees Rule for a reason. Again, you look for this team. Clearly the talent is there. Fernley, what is he going to do? What about my ITA singles ranking? Like, no. Let's stay healthy. Let's be ready for the national indoors. I agree with you there. Should I bury it? No, whatever. Harvard 4-3 over Michigan. Go ahead, Maddie.
No,
I know.
Not good, Gruskin. I mean, it's a team that I really wanted to see Michigan beat. Look, we know Harvard is a good team, right? They're a very good team, but
how do we lose the doubles in that one? We had Maloney and who was playing 2? Maloney and Beatty, I think, served for it at 5-4, or we're up. Like, we had it on a racket.
Just missed opportunities, man. That's a match that you kind of look back on and go, we probably shouldn't have lost that one. That to me was a tough loss. I fully expected Michigan to go in there and win that match. So I think it's a bit of a setback for your Wolverines. I do think so, but they're still a good team as well, right? Again, it's not like the sky is falling. Michigan will be okay, I think. If Styler can stay on the court and everything. I mean, they need a full lineup there. Michigan does, but they're going to be tough anyway. It's just, that's one of those losses. It's like, okay, you really want to have that Harvard match in the win column, and
we've got more matches on the calendar. Styler's still not healthy, still not fully fit.
Right.
Fenty's so up and down from match to match. Like, to do what he does against Wake Forest and on the kickoff weekend, and to lose the match the way he did last weekend, it's frustrating. Like, it really is frustrating, Chris. Fine, I'll give you a word here, Chris. I was going to box you up, but it just feels like we never know what Michigan we're going to get.
Yeah. I'm not even sold on the up and down from Fenty yet, because
it's just down.
Well, yeah. Well, for the reason that the only up that I can give him is the win over Karamov, which doesn't look very good right now because everybody's beating Karamov. So I'm not sure. I don't know what to make of it. Maybe it was a good win. I need to see more from Karamov, but it doesn't seem at this point like even that potentially could have been all that great. So I think he's probably not in great form. And as you mentioned, Styler getting him down to 3 and not being able to pull it off, that's painful. The good thing for them is they've got, they're getting a couple matches in Illinois and Notre Dame coming up at home, 2 teams that they should beat, but are not cakewalks, right? I mean, they're good teams that will give them some push, and then they go on the road to TCU and they'll get another crack to get the confidence up. I mean, probably an indoor match. It's March. I don't know. It's post indoors. Maybe it'll be outdoors, but yeah, it'll be another good one for them to try to get that confidence level back up before they head into the Big Ten season. Yeah. They also have a match with Baylor, right? So they're going to get plenty of chances, against the good teams still.
No doubt about that. And, 2 against Illinois, 2 against Ohio State. On a side note, if you're Harvard, you now have it. Like, if you run the table in the Ivy League, wins over Pepperdine, wins over Michigan, you're probably a top 16 seed. So credit to the Crimson, man. Like, they have earned it. It's been over a year and a half since they played. They are that good. And the recruiting classes apparently have not been lying to us. All right, we're rapid firing here. 2 cents or less, fellas, or we're not going to get to all of these matches. San Diego, 4-3 over Arizona State, 5-2 loss to Arizona. Maddie, your thoughts on them and the Arizona swing?
I don't really have much thoughts on that, to be honest, guys. I mean, they lose to Arizona. That's expected. I mean, Arizona State, I said this last week, I think they're just not the team. They're down this year. They're not as good as we would hope they would be. And it sucks because I really like Matt Hill. I mean, that's my guy, my zonals coach from, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago or whatever it is. But San Diego, yeah, I mean, they're a good squad. So I'm not totally shocked that they beat ASU.
Chris, this is your strike zone. Give me the takeaway.
Yeah, but my only takeaway really is the results as expected from a team standpoint. Disappointing weekend for August Holmgren.
Sure.
That was the takeaway, is coming top ranked guy, great fall, getting off to a slow start to start the dual match season here. But maybe he can get that behind him. But yeah, those were the results that we expected to see. Arizona knocking them off and them knocking off Arizona State.
And remember, Coach Ray, it's at College Tennis Ranks, not at AL Gruskin, for your criticism there of Chris. All right. How about the Wildcats?
That'll just be a straight text. It won't go out on Twitter.
Exactly. Really nice weekend for Northwestern, though. 4-3 over Duke, 4-3 over Princeton. They're your third best team in the Big Ten. Is it them? Is it Illinois? Is it Michigan? I mean, the point is Northwestern's slowly working its way. I would argue Northwestern has better wins right now than Michigan does, better wins than Illinois does right now. Now, it's still very early, but those are 2 really good wins.
They should have lost to Duke, guys. I'm just telling you, Garrett Johns was up 5-2 in the third or something like that. I mean, he had that match against Foreman.
Yeah, but Steve's a fighter, man.
He is. He's a tough lefty. I like him. I do, but
big.
But Garrett, that's just a match that I really wanted Garrett to come through and win that match. Sure. Duke had put themselves in a position to win it, and they really should have. But credit to Northwestern. I mean, they battled and they picked up a couple of good wins. So yeah, no, I agree, Gruskin. Third best team in the Big Ten. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair right now.
Chris, floor is yours. I do want to point out I'm still at the Nielsen Tennis Center, some club tennis action going around, which, God, you just love being in a tennis environment. Atrocious hook on court number 5 right beneath me. Oh, my God, just atrocious hook. God, it's so nice to be back. Sorry,
and
go ahead.
His first 2 initials didn't match?
No. Just surprise. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, behind Ohio State and Michigan, absolutely. I mean, the Northwestern has looked good. I think it's kind of like the ACC, where you've got 2 teams that are probably at this point clearly sitting above everybody else, and then you got some folks battling for what comes next. But definitely Northwestern, a couple good wins for them. They're a great team. They don't quite. I mean, they don't have that. It's a step up to get to the talent levels that are on those next schools from where they're at. But they are a good team that's doing well with what they've got, and they are going to play probably a lot of those 4-3 type matches that are going to come down to the end, just like they did with Duke, and they pulled it out.
Yeah, fair. All right, 3 in a row for you, Chris. Tulsa, Memphis, Pepperdine, all earning wins. Tulsa 4-3 over Pepperdine. Pepperdine 4-2 over Oklahoma State. Memphis 4-3 over Alabama. NCAA implications. And by the way, huge shout out to you, Scotty B, who I know is sticking around to hear some Baylor, Texas analysis. We'll get there in a moment, and I appreciate all of your comments as always, Scotty. But go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Tulsa, big win for Tulsa over Pepperdine. So you threw Tulsa and Pepperdine in there. So disappointing loss, undoubtedly, for Pepperdine to Tulsa. Especially when talking as you were about NCAA implications. What
Yeah, we're laughing because Maddie just threw on a new Baylor hat. But go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
He's got the new Baylor hat. I mean, we're live. We can talk about the South Carolina win tonight, right? South Carolina knocked off Wake Forest today. But yeah, I think that was a big win for Tulsa, and that's going to mean something for them coming down the wire when we start talking NCAA implications in terms of getting in the tournament. Pepperdine squarely in the tournament, but somebody that was fighting to try to fight for a top 16 seed, clearly on the outside looking in for that at this point. And that was a somewhat costly loss there. Still a very good team that I think is going to be, solid all year. And then who's the second team you asked me about?
Yeah, I like it. Good. Memphis over Alabama 4-3.
Oh, Memphis. Yeah. I watched that. With Alabama. That was that was clutch. That the Alabama team has not looked great early, and a lot of new faces, but some really talented kids that made final French Open junior doubles. There's some talent on that team. They haven't managed to put it together yet, but for Memphis, I watched their match with Mississippi State. Obviously, I think it was a 4-1 score, which looked on the score sheet lopsided. That match was nowhere near that lopsided. That was a very tight match. They played Mississippi State well. They went in and did their thing against Alabama. That's a good Memphis team. I like what I see from them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Maddie, same to you.
No, I have nothing else to add.
That's what I like.
matches.
So then let me give you some new ones then into the mix. You're right. By the way, that was a terrible question. Listeners who are seeing this right now live know I was totally texting at the end of that answer from Chris because, here's what I'll say. A non-washed mid-prime Greg Maddux would have remembered all three teams I asked him about. That's all I'm saying, Chris. No, I'm just kidding.
Post-prime, you put off as a compliment until you added washed up post-prime. Yeah. Clearly that's not a compliment anymore.
All right. Let me say this. Post-prime in a lot of respects, but let me just say the prime of Chris Halioris was freaking good. It was real good. Yeah. And I would argue professionally still in that prime. And so professional prime. Yeah, it was good.
That prime was D3 number 6 with no backhand. It was outstanding.
Have you seen the movie The Departed? Either of you guys? Come on. Yes, no, maybe. So you haven't seen The Departed.
I don't watch movies.
Is that a Leo movie?
Oh my God. Homework assignment for both of you. Yeah, it's literally DiCaprio and Scorsese, Wahlberg, Damon, all of them. I was going to make a reference and say, oh, it's working overtime, but you don't even know what I'm referring to. So who is that for? Hopefully all of you listeners. Yes. And by the way, super producer Daniel Westhoff chimes in. He says, I have top 10 movie ever. And let me just say a line I like to say to both of you quite frequently, you may not know where I ripped it off from, is maybe, maybe not, maybe F yourself. I got that from The Departed. That's maybe my favorite line of it. It was like, maybe, maybe not. I can't swear because we're live. Anyways, we are well over the 15 minutes. You get 2 words and then we're moving on. USC 4-2 Cal. Matt. Good.
As
expected is 2 words.
As expected. All
right, Chris. By the way, you can have more than 2. You get.
I'm gonna have to make this sound like 2 words. Closer than it should have been. Is that 2 words?
Yeah, I like that. Good bounce back from Arizona. You mentioned for South Carolina. You get 2 sentences on this one. South Carolina 4-2 over Georgia Tech. That was funky. Then the win today over Wake. Much better from the Gamecocks. Right,
yeah,
Maddie?
very encouraging today, just because they haven't. They've been winning, but not in the most convincing fashion. To clinch at 4-0, and then I don't even know where it ended up, 5-2 or 6-1. I'm not sure because they did play it out. 5-2. Yeah, it was very convincing from them today, and that was with Kungu back in the lineup for Wake. So yeah, very encouraging. I think that things look better for them. Still not sure what the answer is at 6 for them.
Yeah, I like it. Go ahead, Maddie.
I was just going to say, finally, we got a result from South Carolina that I think we were expecting, preseason. We thought South Carolina, borderline top 10, team. That's the type of statement match that I think we were looking for over Wake. So very good win for the Gamecocks, for sure.
I agree with you there. All right, here.
My other takeaway, I mentioned this to Maddie pre-broadcast. Rodriguez is Draxel Jr. when it comes to the scoreboard. He plays 3 sets. And it doesn't matter, 6-love, 6-1, whatever you want. You can have the first set, we're playing 3. Every match, he and Draxel both, they just love to play 3 sets. Did it again today.
No, that's good. I like it. And again, a lot of good results out there. The only ones left for us to talk about, and we're going to skip through this. Shout out to Auburn, 4-3 over Georgia Tech. Oklahoma, 5-2 over Arkansas. Notre Dame, sneaky good, 5-2 win over Middle Tennessee State. Cal, 4-0 over UCLA. But last, but certainly not least, Baylor Bears, 6-1 over Texas. Maddie, put that hat back on immediately. I'm asking you to put on the Baylor Bears hat here as you analyze them. Ruckus crowd. And Baylor came out. We had this match on our broadcast. Baylor was up 5-1 and 5-2 on number 1 and 3 doubles in the blink of an eye. Now that doubles point got a little bit more complicated. Ultimately, they take it. But Maddie, Baylor was up from the start of this match. They put their foot on the gas pedal and they cruised through this one. That's by far the best the Bears have looked this season. But that right there is a team that looks like number 2, number 1 in the country sort of material.
Oh, yeah. They stepped up. I was proud of my guys. I mean, that's a tough match. Texas, we know, is a really good team. Doesn't matter that it's indoors.
I don't think Nick would have done that to Waldeep. I don't think Nick would have done it to him.
Look, Marco stepped up. I mean, he really did. I was impressed with Marco's performance. Really, all the guys. I mean, again, from doubles, they came out hot. And then, the doubles point did get a little bit tight. I think that's one thing that they can clean up is like, hey, in dubs, like we're up a couple breaks. Like, let's close those out. But that's all right. I mean, I was just impressed with the poise, with the energy, and just with the overall level of play, because Baylor hadn't played, a top squad up until that point, really. I mean, they played Miami or whatever, but that's nowhere near the same caliber. So I'm very encouraged with my Baylor Bears. I think they looked great, and yeah, we'll see what they do at indoors and even against Virginia on Saturday.
Chris, final words on last week's results go to you, whether it's Baylor, whether it's anything we missed, your thoughts on all of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Baylor, I was on the call with you in that, as you said, the doubles was, a little trickier than it looked like it was going to be, but they just ran away quick in singles. Super impressive from them. You mentioned the one that kind of did catch my eye, and that was that Notre Dame 5-2 win over Middle Tennessee. We know Middle Tennessee's got a good team. They put up a bunch of good results last year, off to an okay start this year. They've got some talented players. Honestly, I thought it might be close. I wasn't expecting a 5-2 Notre Dame win in Tennessee. So that was a good match. I think that's a great result for Notre Dame and maybe a good sign that there's going to be some healthy competition in that whole middle pack in the ACC.
Yeah, no, again, really, really fun times right now. Parity, the name of the game. We had so many 4-3 matches to touch on this week. It speaks to, again, the quality of performance you see match in, match out. Maddie's holding it up on the broadcast here. Baylor Bears as impressive as anyone else. There were a ton of teams who impressed in week 3, 4, whatever we want to say here, to end month number 1 of the college tennis season. With all of that said, those are our results here from the past week of Division I men's college tennis. Now, there's still a couple of things left we have to do, of course. Before we do any of them, I want to give one more shout out to our friends at SwingVision. And some of you, again, have heard us say this: on-court line technology. How is it going to be solved at a cheap and affordable price for all of these coaches? It's simple. SwingVision app. That's the place to do it. You click on the link here on this podcast description. You can find out how to get signed up with SwingVision right away. Of course, if you let them know we sent you by using our promo code CRACK20, you get a $20 discount off of your account plus a free 14-day pro trial. Again, whether it's documenting your own play, incorporating things like the electric line calls, all of these things could be made possible because of our friends at SwingVision. Immensely grateful for their support. Again, to learn more about the SwingVision mobile app, just click on the link you find in this podcast description. With that said, a couple of things left for us to discuss, and we're going to go through fast here at the end. Start with the ITA rankings. Again, you take them all with a grain of salt at this point, right? Because certainly you look at these rankings, it's pre-national indoor. Some of them filled out, for the USTA poll, you had to fill it out without the Monday results in mind. I'll start with you, Maddie. Actually, I'm going to start with our rankings guru. I don't mean to be disrespectful here, but this is his bread and butter, Chris. Floor is yours.
on the spot with any individual singles or doubles things because I didn't look at them. I don't care. They're not accurate this early. The sample size is too small. I don't even, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter until the end of the season. So there's no point in even looking. So I didn't. So unless you quiz me on something, I have no idea. Team, I think the team rankings, as we've gone on each week from the coaches poll, and there's only, I think, one more. Actually, there are none left. This will be the last one because there's no rankings next week prior to indoors. And then the following week will be computer. So this will be the last coaches poll. I think they've gotten better. The only, I think Caleb Dillard commented online about the interesting, and I thought, well, what was interesting? The only thing that varied more than 2 spots from anywhere I had ranked anybody was Wake Forest. I think they're all pretty, and then they go, and then I feel vindicated when they lose today. So, but yeah, I think they're generally, really, really good at this point. So I have no issues with the team rankings whatsoever.
Maddie, same question.
Yeah, no, I agree with Chris there. From a singles and doubles perspective, I looked at them, of course. I went through and I glanced at it, but they're so off base. It's not even worth spending too much time on. I'm totally with Chris there. You've got guys that are ranked that aren't even playing in lineups. They're the number 7 guy that's ranked 30 in the country. Weird stuff is going on with the rankings from that perspective. So, we just have to continue playing, and those will even out over the course of the season for the team. I also agree with Chris. I think they're getting better and better. Wake, obviously too high. They shouldn't have been above Virginia or Stanford. I think that's pretty clear, but yeah, no, the team rankings are getting better. I don't have really any major issues either because, almost I'm looking at it here. I've probably got 9 of the 10 teams that the coaches put in the top 10. I've got in my top 10. Yeah. So pretty accurate.
My issue, why I put North Carolina at 23 when there are teams who have just been better this year, like Northwestern deserved the top 25 spot this week, and that they were boxed out by North Carolina. It's the most marginal thing. Feels a little unkosher. It's like, that's the one thing I would change directionally. I agree with you. Team rankings look very, very accurate. I'll say this. Arthur Ferry as the number 1 singles player in the country. Cash and Voetzel is the number 1 doubles team in the country. I can get behind that. I think at the very, very top of these individual rankings right now, it's accurate. But to your point, sample size far too small at this point to put too much value into anything. That is why we produce our own rankings here at Cracked Racquets. Of course, we focus on the team for now. As soon as Chris retires from the real job, we'll let him code whatever he wants into our Cracked Racquets individual rankings. But you look at our Cracked Racquets top 10 right now. I mean, I don't want to say there's drama at the top of our rankings, but there is a bit of a disagreement between us and the coaches poll. You look in particular, we agree. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2 for us, we have a tie actually between Baylor and Tennessee. You look at the coaches poll, Tennessee number 2, Baylor number 3. I will say we have a tie right now because John Parsons, our friend Jay, not quite as high up on the Baylor Bears right now, valuing some of the matches played by other teams as opposed to the 3 of us are. And I know he wouldn't mind me saying that publicly. I will say this. I agree with Jay. Who's the coach that voted for Tennessee in the coaches poll? Did you not watch the Ohio State Tennessee match? I get the vote for Baylor. I actually have no problem with that. If you're saying, well, I want to see the Bears tested more, I can't just carte blanche road Ohio State. I get the reasoning for that. Come on now. What are we doing here? 12 votes, 10 Ohio State, 1 Baylor, 1 Tennessee. That would be one of my only gripes. Otherwise, you look for it again for us. Ohio State 1, Baylor, Tennessee tied for 2, TCU in that 4 spot, Florida 5, Stanford rising up to 6, UVA 7. We have Wake and Kentucky tied for 8. I won't lie. That's my bad. I forgot to switch something. Maddie asked me to switch. It happens every so often. Number 10, University of Georgia. I mean, I disagree with 10. I know we've talked about this already, but I feel like directionally, I feel pretty good about this. Maddie, then Chris, final reactions here.
Yeah, I don't have Georgia in the not in my top 10, so I don't know who
and
put
that's
him in.
Before,
Chris,
yeah.
I think Chris might have put him in there, or Jay, or somebody put Georgia in there. I did not, though. But no, other than that, I mean, I'm okay with this. I mean, I think, I'm looking at it. Ohio State, Baylor, Tennessee. I mean, that's exactly how I had mine. With the exception of Georgia in there. I think I had USC, the Trojans at number 10 for me.
No, I had South Carolina. So again, I feel smart.
Oh, that looks even better. That looks a little better now after today too.
There's a reason I'm the host of this show, gentlemen. Chris.
What do you mean? You got lucky. What are you talking about? That's luck.
Chris.
Yeah, blind squirrel, Maddie. But
oh yeah.
No, I like ours better. Certainly, like Maddie said, there's no way Wake should have been up at 6 where they were. They're good, but I think we all had them down there at the 9-10 spot type area. So
yeah.
And I did. Yeah, I have Georgia 10. I think Maddie had USC 10. You had South Carolina. And I will say, South Carolina is super impressive with that win today. Maybe they do deserve to be there.
Yeah, well, again, it's foresight. That's what I do best. I'm a visionary, they say. What's right in front of me, couldn't tell you, but visionary towards the future. That's what do we always joke about, Chris? We'd rather be a year or two soon than a year behind. And so, that's what we do best here at Cracked Racquets. With all of that said, again, we're going to try and get these shows to an hour at some point of this season. A little difficult to do that when there's so much action, so much unknown here early in the year. Of course, again, unforced error on my part. Forgot to tell super producer Daniel Westoff to help me plan a week ahead. Therefore, we don't have a graphic. Of course, we still have to give you all the perspective here because, yes, while us here at Cracked Racquets could be locked in on the women's national indoors, there are a ton of fun men's matches throughout the country happening this weekend. Maddie, then Chris, give me the matches you're watching most closely.
Oh, gee. Well, number one for me is obviously going to be Baylor, Virginia. That's number one on my list. That's the featured event, I think. But there's other good ones too, right?
I have a goofy question. You know what? I get to ask this question. It's still my show. I've tried to filter this sort of goof out because I don't like to get in trouble anymore, but it's still my show. Does Brian Boland attend this match, Maddie and Chris?
No. Brian Boland does not attend this match.
Chris?
I'm pretty confident of that.
He's on the stream.
Now that may be 100% true. I'm talking in person, actually there.
No.
I was going to make another joke. I'm not going to make that joke though. Maddie, again, why are you excited for this match?
Oh, well, it's a top 10 matchup. I mean, it's two awesome teams that are going to go to battle. I mean, I'm super excited to see how that plays out. I'm confident that Baylor will get the job done at home. Hopefully the crowd comes out again and everybody's loud. I fully expect that to happen. But no, I mean, there's some other matches too, Gruskin. How about Kentucky and Ohio State? I mean, we have Coach Cal, Kentucky's basketball coach, tweeting out support for the tennis team. How cool is that? That's awesome. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I do think Ohio State will win, of course, but Kentucky's a super dangerous team, and that's one that I will definitely have my eye on. I know, Chris, I'll leave this one for Chris. I won't say too much about it. Mississippi State is at TCU, so that's going to be an interesting match. I'll definitely have my eye on that. And those are really some of the main ones that I would say. Virginia also, after the Baylor match, they do go to TCU as well. So I will be interested to see how that one ends up. That's a tough road trip for Virginia. They play at Ohio State this past weekend. Then they go to Texas. They're at Baylor. They're at TCU. I mean, good Lord, talk about a tough schedule. That's ridiculously tough. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Wake Forest also plays Ohio State as well. We talked about that earlier. That's another one that I've got to tune into for the number one team in the country. So those are some of the big ones for me.
Chris, anything you'd like to add there? What are you going to be watching for in those matches?
Yeah, I mean, so all of those, obviously the dual matches for Ohio State, Kentucky, Wake Forest, those are big. The Virginia matches, Baylor, TCU. Yes, Mississippi State at TCU. I'm not even going to dwell there because I don't think.
Oh, come on!
I'm not holding out tons of hope for an upset. It's going to be tough to play there.
Come on, hey, maybe not an upset, but what about a closely contested dual match?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are some spots that that Mississippi State can do really well at. And that'll be interesting to see. But yeah. We couldn't get it done at home last year. It's going to take something special to get revenge on the road. Another interesting one I'm looking forward to is South Carolina at North Carolina. So that's a Sunday match. Obviously, South Carolina is going to be the favorite there, but and it's at North Carolina. That could be a sneaky jump up and surprise you if North Carolina, the top guys clearly have to show up and win for them to have a shot. But if that happens, you never know. So that could be a sneaky good match, if you will. And there's a couple other interesting ones, A&M, USF, Illinois at Michigan, Gruskin.
Michigan should roll.
Yeah.
That's out there. Yeah. But I think those are probably the biggest ones.
Yeah, no, again, a lot of good ones throughout the course of the weekend. I'll be watching Denver at Air Force. That's more my speed, or of course, for super producer Daniel Westoff, because obviously I know where his eyes are going to be. We'll be watching Quincy at St. Louis, the doubleheader, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 12:30 a.m. Eastern time as well for that doubleheader. It'll be, I think super producer Daniel Westoff might say, we're going to delay the national indoor stream for a little Quincy at St. Louis action, folks, or he'll text me, go live to St. Louis match point. So expect that little surprise there for all of you. Of course, again, so many great matches over the course of the weekend. It's going to be disappointing for us here that we're not going to get to watch them on our Cracked Racquets feed, but of course we are so excited to be covering some other fantastic college tennis this weekend as we are locked in on the Division I Women's National Indoors here in Madison, Wisconsin. Again, for coverage from first ball to last of the event, tune in to our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel. It'll be myself. It'll be Mike Cation, super producer Daniel Westoff on the ones and twos. Inevitably, you'll get the Chris Halioris, John Parsons messages in our Cracked Racquets YouTube feed, as well as we break down all of the action, try to figure out which of the top 16 teams in the country has earned the right to be named the national indoor champion this season. Again, all of that coverage Friday through Monday on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel. Won't want to miss out on any of the action. Of course, we'll try to do preview podcasts before each and every show, try to talk with John Parsons as frequently as I can. I have a podcast coming up later tonight that'll be available for all of you tomorrow morning before the matches get started. But of course, we'll recap all of the action, then be back next week to talk about it all at length as well. Of course, a huge shout out to all of you fans, to all of you coaches, players, for your continued support of our efforts here at Cracked Racquets. Why are we able to host the National Indoors on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel? Because you guys have proven that, again, our college tennis community here at Cracked Racquets as strong as any out there. And again, we are immensely grateful for the opportunity to broadcast this weekend's action. We know it would not have happened without your continued support. All of you continuing to tune in to our coverage. With all that said, again, we'll be back next week to cover all of the action. Deciding Point Tuesday night to recap the women's event. Deciding Point Thursday night. We'll have to figure out. We might make that an ITA kickoff preview just because I don't know if we're going to be able to record 2 episodes back to back, and I'll be in Seattle. Things are going to get funky there as well. So, of course, tentative schedule the same as this week. We'll get back to you more specifically as we move on. Of course, again, you want to hear more from Cannon Kingsley. Cracked Interviews podcast is the place for you. You'll be able to hear that entire conversation on tomorrow's podcast feed. With all that said, I assume you guys have all of your final thoughts out of the way, because God knows we went an hour 37 here tonight. So oh, by the way, a shout out to super producer Daniel Westoff on the ones and twos. Fantastic job as always. But my fantastic co-hosts, Matt the Crack Stachowiak, super producer, and Chris Halioris. Sorry, Chris. Our super producer Daniel Westoff, our friends at SwingVision, and from all of us here at both Cracked Racquets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. Now we've gone from hooks on court 5 to the players out there are giving me the meanest look. So it's time to sign off. Gentlemen, what do we tell our listeners?
Hey, great shot.
Great shot.
And we will see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Coming in at number 10 in our Cracked Racquets preseason poll is the Kentucky Wildcats. The men from Lexington got off to a hot start in 2021, ripping off 9 straight dual match victories to begin their year. They'll be disappointed with how their season ended, though, as they suffered their only home loss of the season in a second-round NCAA tournament defeat to Arizona. That said, the Wildcats are bringing back just about every major contributor from a season ago, and head coach Cedric Kaufman's team should be ready to take another step forward and compete with the